You're just a burden in our lives, Mom. You need to get out of this house right now. My daughter, Chelsea's words, cut through the air like knives as I held my 70th birthday cake. 70 years of life, and my own children were kicking me out of my own home on my birthday. Michael came over and snatched the keys from my hands while Sophia recorded everything on her phone, smiling as if it were the happiest moment of her life. You don't need these keys anymore, mother-in-law. We'll take care of everything now. Robert pushed my suitcase toward the door, the same suitcase I'd packed, thinking I was going on vacation with them. How stupid I was. But what hurt the most was seeing my granddaughter, Olivia, crying in the corner, covering her ears to block out her parents shouting. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story of revenge from. I want to know how far it has reached. She was the only one who looked at me with shame as they dragged me toward the door. Grandma, I'm so sorry. She whispered to me through tears before Chelsea pulled her by the arm. Shut up, Olivia. Your grandma needs to learn that she can't manipulate us with her victimhood anymore. That was the moment something inside me broke. It wasn't just my heart. It was my entire soul. 3 hours earlier, everything had started as the perfect birthday. The house smelled of cinnamon and fresh roses because I had spent all morning decorating every corner to welcome my family. The white lace curtains I had hand-embroidered let in the golden afternoon light, creating those sunbeams that always made me feel blessed. I had put out the linen tablecloth that belonged to my mother, the same one I only used on special occasions, and had filled the table with all my children's favorite dishes. Red sauce pasta, just the way Michael liked it, sweet corn pudding for Chelsea, and vanilla flan that Robert always asked for when he came to visit. Chelsea arrived first, carrying a bouquet of yellow flowers and a smile that I now realize was so fake. Happy birthday, Mom. 70 years. Wow. She hugged me, but her arms felt cold, mechanical, as if she were hugging a stranger. Robert came in behind her, carrying a bottle of expensive champagne that he had surely bought with the credit card I had given him last month. Dolores, you look so good for 70, he said in that honeyed voice that had always made me suspicious. Olivia hid behind her parents, but when she saw me, she ran to me with open arms. At least my granddaughter still genuinely loved me. Michael arrived minutes later with Sophia, who immediately began taking pictures of every corner of the house with her phone. Oh, mother-in-law, what a beautiful house. I love how well you've kept everything. Her eyes shone in a way that wasn't admiration, but something darker, more calculating. She paused in front of the wooden hutch where I kept my important documents, and I saw her fingers trace the edge as if it were already hers. Michael gave me a kiss on the cheek, but avoided looking me in the eye. Mom, we need to talk about some things after dinner, he said in a low voice. Important things about your future. Dinner passed in a strange atmosphere that I couldn't interpret until it was too late. Everyone ate and laughed, but their voices sounded hollow, as if they were acting in a play I hadn't read. Chelsea praised the food with too much enthusiasm. Robert made jokes that no one really found funny, and Sophia kept taking pictures of everything, even the documents I had left on the dining room table. It's for the memories, mother-in-law, she explained when I asked why she was photographing my papers. We want to save all the special moments. I should have noticed how Michael was looking at the bills I had left on the kitchen counter. I should have paid attention to the way Chelsea looked at the jewelry I was wearing, as if she were calculating its value. I should have suspected when Robert asked about the house deed, feigning casual interest. But I was so happy to have them with me, so grateful not to spend another birthday alone like the last 5 years, that I interpreted all those signs as a show of love and concern for my well-being. When they brought out my birthday cake, the candles flickered like small warnings I couldn't read, 70 yellow candles that I had bought myself that morning, thinking how beautiful the moment would look when everyone sang to me. Chelsea lit each one carefully, but I noticed her hands trembled slightly. "Make a very special wish, Mom," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "because this is a birthday you'll never forget." Her words had a strange, almost threatening tone, but I interpreted them as maternal affection. Blowing out the candles felt like I was extinguishing my own light. I made the same wish as always, that my family would be united and that I would never lack their love. What a cruel irony of fate. Everyone applauded when the flames went out, but their applause sounded like the echo of an empty church. Robert poured the wine into glasses I recognized as the good ones, the crystal ones I only used at Christmas. "A toast to Dolores," he said, raising his glass, "for all the years you've given so much to us." The way he said so much chilled my blood, though at the time, I didn't understand why. It was after the toast that the performance began. Chelsea cleared her throat and exchanged a look with Michael that I had seen 1,000 times when they were kids and had planned some mischief, but now they were adults in their 40s, and the mischief they had planned was much more sinister than my mind could imagine. Michael stood up, adjusted his tie as he always did when he was about to say something important, and began to speak in a voice that sounded rehearsed. "Mom, Chelsea and I have been talking a lot lately about your situation." My situation. As if it were a problem that needed to be solved. "What situation, son?" I asked with a smile, thinking they might be referring to it being time for me to find a partner or travel more. Sophia took some papers out of her bag, documents that I recognized as copies of my bank statements. My heart began to beat faster. "How did you get those papers?" The question came out of my mouth as a whisper because part of me already knew the answer and didn't want to hear it. "We got them because we needed to understand what your real situation was, Mom," Chelsea replied with a coldness I had never known from her. "And we discovered some very interesting things." Robert got up and began to walk around the living room as if it were his own house, touching my furniture, my photographs, my memories with a familiarity that sickened me. "Dolores, you have a very valuable house, considerable savings, and no real plan for the future. That worries us a lot." The word "worries" sounded fake in his mouth. What I saw in his eyes wasn't concern. It was pure greed. I truly wonder if you were in my place. What would you do? Would you choose to be quiet to maintain peace? Or would you dare to face everything to reclaim your voice? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the way for someone else. Michael spread more papers on the table, legal documents I didn't recognize. "We've consulted with a lawyer, Mom. We think it's best for you to transfer the house to our names to avoid legal problems in the future. It would also be good for you to give us full access to your bank accounts so we can help you manage your money better." His words fell on me like stones. My own son was trying to strip me of everything I had worked for 50 years. "I don't understand," I mumbled, feeling my legs begin to tremble. "Why do you need access to my money? You have your own jobs, your own lives." Chelsea laughed, but it was a bitter laugh, full of resentment. "Our jobs, Mom. Robert lost his job 6 months ago. I work part-time at a store that barely gives me enough to survive." And Michael turned to his brother with a cruel smile. "Tell Mom about your big business, Michael." My older son looked down for the first time all night. "I had some problems with my company, Mom. some investments that didn't turn out as I expected. Sophia came over and put her hand on her husband's shoulder as if it were a well-rehearsed act. What Michael is trying to say is that we lost a lot of money, mother-in-law, and we need urgent help. The way she said need sounded more like a threat than a request. It was then that the pieces began to fit together in my mind like a devilish puzzle. The more frequent visits in recent months, the questions about my documents, the credit cards they had borrowed and never returned, Robert checking my bills, Sophia photographing every corner of my house, Chelsea asking about my jewelry. It had all been part of a plan. My own birthday had been the perfect stage for their final blow. "So this is what you're going to do?" I continued, feeling my voice grow firmer with each word. "You're going to take my house, my money, my belongings, and I'm going to be left with what, exactly?" Chelsea shrugged as if my question were irrelevant. "Mom, you're 70. You don't need so much space, so much money. We're young, we have families to support, dreams to fulfill. You've already lived your life." You've already lived your life. Those 5 words were plunged into my chest like poison daggers. I looked at Chelsea, my little girl, whom I had carried in my arms all night when she had a fever, whom I had taught to walk, holding her hands in this very hallway. That same girl was now telling me that my life had no more value, that I no longer deserved to have a home, a future, a dignity. Do you really believe that, Chelsea? Do you really think that because I'm 70, I don't deserve to live in peace? Her response was worse than her silence. She laughed, a dry, cruel laugh that I had never heard come out of her mouth. "Mom, don't be so dramatic. We're not saying you don't deserve to live. We're just being realistic. We need these resources more than you do. We can do something productive with them." Robert nodded as if it were the most logical thing in the world. "Dolores, think about it. A house that big for one person is a waste. We have Olivia. We need space for her to grow, for her to have a better future." It was then that I heard the smallest voice of all, the one that hurt the most. Olivia, my 16-year-old granddaughter, timidly got up from her chair. "Mom, Dad, this isn't right. Grandma has helped us all our lives. You can't do this to her." Chelsea turned to her daughter with a fury that terrified me. "You be quiet, Olivia. The adults are talking." But my granddaughter, bless her, didn't shut up. "No, Mom, this is wrong, and you know it. Grandma paid for my school uniforms last year when you couldn't. She bought me my school supplies, my shoes, my backpack, and now you want to kick her out of her own house." Chelsea's hand went up as if to hit Olivia, but I stopped it with a strength I didn't know I had. "Don't you dare touch that child." My voice came out as a roar that silenced the whole room. "If you have a problem with me, you solve it with me, but you don't touch my granddaughter." Chelsea lowered her hand, but her gaze became even more venomous. "Look at how you manipulate even my own daughter, Mom. That's why you need to leave, because you've always been a manipulator." Michael intervened before I could respond. "Mom, enough with the drama. We've made a family decision, and it's final. You're going to go live in a place more appropriate for your age, and we're going to take care of the house and your finances. It's what's best for everyone." Sophia smiled as she took more papers from her bag. "We already found a very nice nursing home, mother-in-law. It's only 2 hours from here. They have good food, activities for people your age. It will be perfect." A nursing home. They wanted to put me in a nursing home to get their hands on everything I owned. 50 years of work, of sacrifice, of getting up at 5 in the morning to get to the factory, of sewing uniforms late into the night to earn extra money. of living with the bare minimum so I could help them when they needed it. And their plan was to lock me away in a place where I could die peacefully while they enjoyed my inheritance while I was still alive. And what if I refuse? I asked, though I already knew they had an answer for that too. Robert smiled, and for the first time that night he showed his true colors. Well, Dolores, we hope you'll be reasonable, but if not, we have other options. My brother-in-law is a lawyer, and he explained that a person your age may not be in the mental condition to make important decisions. We could request a psychological evaluation, maybe a legal guardianship. The threat hung in the air like toxic smoke. If I didn't hand everything over voluntarily, they would declare me mentally incompetent and take it by force. I had seen cases like that on the news, elderly people stripped of everything by unscrupulous relatives. I never thought my own children would be capable of sinking so low. Sophia came up to me with that fake smile she had perfected over the years. Mother-in-law, we don't want to go to unpleasant extremes. We just want you to sign these papers tonight, and tomorrow we'll take you to see your new home. Everything's going to be fine, you'll see. She held out a golden pen, probably an expensive one bought with my own money. We just need your signature here, here, and here. I looked at the documents without really reading them, the letters blurred in front of my eyes, not because of age, but because of the tears I was fighting to hold back. But there was one line I could read clearly. Total transfer of assets and properties. They wanted me to sign my own social death sentence, to give up everything it had cost me a lifetime to build. And what if I need money for medicine, for emergencies? I asked in a voice I no longer recognized as my own. Chelsea sighed as if I were a spoiled child asking silly questions. Mom, that's what we'll be here for. We'll give you an allowance like a child. You won't lack for anything basic. An allowance? After 50 years of work, after raising them, educating them, supporting them financially even when they were already adults, my reward was to become a child dependent on their generosity. The most humiliating moment of my life was about to arrive, but I still didn't know it. I took the pen with trembling hands, not because I was going to sign, but because I needed time to process the magnitude of the betrayal I was experiencing. Before I sign, I said in a voice I tried to keep steady, I want to understand one thing. When did you plan all this? When did you decide that your mother was an obstacle you needed to remove? Michael and Chelsea exchanged another one of those complicit glances that now sickened me. Mom, don't look at it as a negative thing, my older son replied with a condescension that made my blood boil. We've been worried about you for months. Your mental health isn't the same. Sometimes you forget things. You get confused with dates. It's normal at your age, but you need supervision. Lies. It was all lies designed to justify the unjustifiable. My mind was perfectly clear, so clear that I could remember every dollar I had lent them in the last 5 years, every favor I had done for them, every time I had put their needs before mine. My mental health is perfect, I replied firmly, so perfect that I can remember exactly how much money I lent Robert last year for his supposed used car business. $50,000 that he never paid back. Robert turned red as a ripe tomato. That money was lost in the investment, Dolores. I already explained it. Businesses sometimes don't turn out as you expect. Sophia put her hand on her husband's arm, as if she were the one who needed comforting. Mother-in-law, you can't keep bringing up every dollar you've lent us. We're family. Families help each other without keeping score. Without keeping score. How easy it was to say that when they had never given anything in return. You're right, Sophia. Families help each other, but they also respect each other, take care of each other, protect each other. They don't conspire to steal. The word steal fell like a bomb in the room. Chelsea jumped up, her face disfigured with anger. How dare you call us thieves? Everything we're doing is for your own good. For my own good. The laugh that came from my throat was bitter, desperate. Taking my house is for my good. Stealing my savings is for my good. Threatening to declare me crazy is for my good. Each question was a lash that made them flinch a little more, but instead of showing shame, they showed more aggression. It was then that Robert completely lost his temper, approaching me with menacing steps, his fists clenched. Enough with the victim act, Dolores. You owe us much more than you think. Who do you think has been paying for your medicine for the last 2 years? Who has been coming over to fix your leaks, your electrical problems? Who has taken care of you when you get sick? His words left me breathless, not because they were true, but because they were so brazenly false. Robert, I pay for my own medicine with my pension. The few times you've come to fix something in my house, I've paid you like you were just an employee. And when I got pneumonia last year, it was Olivia who took care of me, not you. Olivia nodded from her corner, tears streaming down her cheeks. It's true, Dad. I stayed with Grandma for 2 weeks because you said you had more important things to do. Chelsea turned on her daughter with a fury that chilled my soul. Olivia, if you don't shut up right now, you're going to your room, and you're not coming out until tomorrow. But my brave granddaughter stood up with a dignity that none of the adults in that room were showing. No, Mom, someone has to tell the truth here. Grandma has given us everything. When Dad lost his job, she paid our rent for 3 months. When you needed money for your gallbladder surgery, Grandma sold her jewelry to help you. And when I needed money for my study abroad trip, she was the only one who helped me without asking for anything in return. Every word from Olivia was like a stab for her parents, because it was the pure, undeniable truth. Chelsea approached her daughter with intentions that terrified me. I told you to shut up, you brat! She raised her hand to slap her, but this time it was Olivia who defended herself. Don't touch me. I'm sick of your lies, of watching you treat Grandma like this after everything she's done for us. The scene became chaotic. Chelsea shouting, Robert threatening, Michael trying to calm things down, while Sophia continued to record everything on her phone as if it were a reality show. And in the middle of all that circus, I remained seated with the pen in my hand, watching my family disintegrate in front of my eyes. But something had changed in me during those minutes of shouting and threats. The pain was transforming into something more dangerous, a cold and calculating fury. It was in that moment of total chaos that something ignited within me like a flame that had been dormant for 70 years. While my children screamed and fought like wild animals in my own living room, I remained motionless, observing every movement, every word, every gesture that would prove to be crucial in what was to come. The pen was still in my hand, but it no longer trembled. My hands had become firm as steel, and my mind began to work with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Chelsea was still yelling at Olivia, calling her ungrateful and thankless, while Robert paced my living room like a caged lion, touching my things as if they were already his. Michael tried to maintain his composure, but I could see the sweat running down his forehead, and Sophia had put her phone away, probably because she realized she was recording evidence of their own crimes. In the midst of all that madness, an idea began to form in my head like a dark seed that germinated quickly. Fine, I said suddenly in a voice so calm that everyone stopped to look at me. You win. I'll sign your papers." The silence that followed was so thick that I could hear the ticking of the kitchen clock, the same clock that had marked every happy and sad moment of my life in this house. Chelsea smiled triumphantly. Robert visibly relaxed, and Michael sighed with relief. Only Olivia looked at me with an expression of horror, as if she knew something terrible was about to happen. I took the documents and looked at them closely, as if I were really considering signing them. But in reality, I was memorizing every detail, every clause, every account number that appeared on those papers. My photographic memory, the same one that had helped me manage family finances for decades, was registering information I knew I would need very soon. "I just have one more question," I said, looking up at Michael. "When exactly do you plan to move me to the nursing home?" "Tomorrow morning," my son replied with a smile he believed was victorious. "We already have everything arranged. Sophia will come and help you pack your personal things. Just the essentials because the nursing home room is small." Sophia nodded with fake enthusiasm. "You can only take one suitcase, mother-in-law. But don't worry, we'll take care of everything else." Everything else? My house, my furniture, my photographs, my memories from 50 years of marriage, the toys I had saved from when my children were little, the love letters my husband had written me before he died. All of that would be the everything else they would take care of. They would probably sell it or throw it away without even asking me if there was anything I wanted to keep. "I understand," I mumbled, bringing the pen to the paper. "Just one more thing, Robert. Could you get me a glass of water? All this excitement has made me a little dizzy." Robert headed to the kitchen with an arrogant stride, as if he were already the owner of the house. That was my opportunity. While he was in the kitchen, I discreetly took my phone from the pocket of my dress and activated the voice recorder. The small device that Olivia had taught me to use last month would become my secret weapon. When Robert returned with the water, I drank slowly while my children waited impatiently. "Thank you, Robert. Now I can think clearly." I put the pen on the paper, but instead of signing, I began to speak in a clear and strong voice. "I want it to be very clear what is happening here tonight. I, Dolores Martinez, 70 years of age, am being blackmailed by my own children to hand over all my assets." "Mom, don't be ridiculous," Michael interrupted, but I continued without flinching. "My son, Michael Martinez, and my daughter, Chelsea Martinez, along with their respective spouses, are threatening to declare me mentally incompetent if I don't sign these documents that strip me of my house, my savings, and all my belongings." Chelsea tried to approach me to take my phone, but I stopped her with a look that paralyzed her. "I also want it to be recorded that they are forcing me to go to a nursing home against my will after I have helped them financially for years without ever asking for anything in return." Robert realized what I was doing and lunged at me to grab the phone, but Olivia stepped between us. "Don't touch her," my granddaughter shouted with a courage that filled me with pride. "Stop abusing Grandma." It was then that Chelsea completely lost control. She approached me, her eyes injected with fury, and screamed the words that would seal her destiny forever. "You're just a burden in our lives, Mom. We can't handle you anymore. You need to get out of this house right now and stop bothering us." Every word was recorded with perfect clarity on my phone. Irrefutable evidence of their cruelty and true intentions. What followed after Chelsea's poisonous words was an escalation of violence I never thought I would witness in my own home. Michael came up to me and snatched the keys from my hands with a brutality that left red marks on my wrists. "You don't need these keys anymore, Mom. We'll take care of everything now." His voice had lost any pretense of filial affection. It was the voice of a stranger, of a predator who had found his perfect prey. Robert pushed a suitcase toward the door that I didn't remember packing. And that's when I realized that they had planned every detail of this night for weeks, maybe months. "Your luggage is ready, Dolores," he said with a cruel smile. "Sophia took the liberty of packing your basic things yesterday while you were at church." The betrayal was so profound it cut off my breath. They had entered my house in my absence, touched my belongings. They had decided what I deserved to keep and what I didn't. Sophia held up a lease agreement that I recognized as the one for the nursing home they had talked about. "We already signed for you, mother-in-law. I hope you don't mind us taking that little liberty. The place is in high demand, and we couldn't risk losing the room." They had forged my signature. My own children had committed document fraud to speed up my expulsion from my own home. When Chelsea pushed me toward the door, something definitively broke inside me. It wasn't just my heart. It was my entire soul that was shattering into pieces. But from those cracks, no more pain emerged, but a fierce determination that I didn't know I possessed. "Fine," I said with a calmness that disconcerted them. "I'm leaving. But I want you to know that I will remember every word you've said tonight, every push, every humiliation." Chelsea laughed with a blood-chilling cruelty. "Mom, don't be dramatic. In a couple of weeks, you won't even remember this. At your age, memory is the first thing to go." Her words were like gasoline on the fire, burning inside me. Robert nodded in approval. "Dolores, you'll be well cared for at the nursing home. You'll be very happy not having to worry about maintaining this big house. Very happy." They were going to be very happy spending my money, living in my house, sleeping in my bed, while I withered away in a nursing home room, waiting for a death that couldn't come soon enough. Michael handed me a paper with the address of the place where they intended to lock me up. "The driver will come for you tomorrow at 8 in the morning. I recommend you don't cause any trouble, Mom. It would be very sad to have to call the police to escort you out." The threat hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If I didn't cooperate voluntarily, they would use public force to remove me from my own home. They had thought of everything. They had closed every exit, or so they believed. But what they didn't know was that I had been thinking too, and my plan was much more sophisticated than theirs. Olivia ran to me, tears streaming down her cheeks like rivers of sadness. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen." I hugged her tightly, inhaling the scent of her apple shampoo, memorizing the feel of her arms around my neck. I knew this could be the last time I hugged her for a long time. "It's not your fault, my love," I whispered in her ear. "Adults sometimes do terrible things, but that doesn't mean you have to carry their guilt." Chelsea came over and pulled Olivia by the arm with a violence that terrified me. "Stop with the drama, Olivia. Your grandma will be fine, and so will we. It's time for you to learn that in life, you have to make difficult decisions." My granddaughter resisted her mother's pull. "These aren't difficult decisions, Mom. This is pure cruelty. Grandma doesn't deserve this after everything she's done for us." It was then that Sophia took out her phone and started recording again. But this time, it wasn't to document my reactions, but to create fake evidence. "Mother-in-law, tell the camera that you agree to move to the nursing home, that you understand it's what's best for you." Her smile was that of a serpent that had found its perfect victim. They wanted me to provide the evidence of my consent myself to legally protect themselves from any future accusation. I looked directly into the camera and with a firm, clear voice, said exactly what she wanted to hear. "I agree to move to the nursing home. I understand that my children believe it's what's best for me." But what Sophia didn't know was that my own phone was still recording in my pocket, capturing not only my words, but the entire context of coercion and threats that surrounded them. Robert took my suitcase and dragged it toward the door as if it were garbage that needed to be taken out. Perfect. Then everything's settled, Dolores. It's been a pleasure knowing you all these years. His farewell sounded like an epitaph, as if I were already dead to them. Michael gave me a kiss on the cheek that felt like the kiss of Judas, false and treacherous. Take care, Mom. We'll visit you very soon. The door closed behind me with a sound that resonated like a hammer hitting a coffin. There I was at 10 at night on my 70th birthday, standing on the sidewalk in front of the house that had been my home for 30 years, with a suitcase in my hand and the certainty that my own children had just signed their own social death sentence. But they didn't know it yet. They thought they had won, that the silly old lady had finally been neutralized. From inside, I could hear their voices celebrating, laughing, toasting with my own wine to their victory. Chelsea was shouting with glee. "We finally got rid of the old burden," Robert added. "Now we can live in peace without her constant complaints." Their words reached the street, and I recorded them all on my phone, building a file of evidence that would soon become their nightmare. I walked to the corner where I knew there was a bench under the streetlight. I sat down as if I were a defeated old woman waiting for help, but in reality, I was executing the first phase of my plan. I took out my phone and dialed the number I had memorized 3 days earlier when I began to suspect what was coming. "Mr. Johnson, this is Dolores Martinez. I need you to activate the plan we discussed. Yes, exactly as we rehearsed." Javier Johnson was a young and ambitious lawyer who had handled my late husband's will, intelligent, discreet, and with a thirst for justice that made him the perfect ally for what was to come. 3 days earlier, when I found copies of my bank statements in Sophia's bag, I knew I needed immediate legal protection. "Dolores, are you sure you want to proceed? Once we activate the protective measures, there's no going back." "I'm completely sure, lawyer. My children have just shown their true nature. It's time for them to learn that they gravely underestimated their mother." I ended the call and dialed the second number on my list, the CMCS Bank, where I had managed my accounts for 25 years. "Good evening. This is Dolores Martinez. I need to activate the security protocol we established last week. Yes, all accounts, all cards, all access." The bank manager, an efficient woman named Patricia, had witnessed how my children had begun to make suspicious transactions with the cards I had lent them. When I explained my suspicions, she herself suggested establishing a protection system that would be activated with a simple phone call. "Mrs. Martinez, in 15 minutes, all additional cards will be canceled, and the main accounts will require in-person double authentication. Are you sure you want to proceed?" "Completely sure, Patricia. And please also activate the automatic transfer we programmed. It's time for my savings to be in a safer place." The safer place was an account at another bank, in another city, under a name only I knew. An account I had opened discreetly the week before, when I realized my children were planning something big. My third call was the most painful, but also the most necessary. "Olivia, it's your grandma. I know it's late, but I need you to do something very important for me." My granddaughter replied in a trembling voice, probably hiding in her room so her parents couldn't hear her. "Grandma, where are you? Mom and Dad said they had already taken you to the nursing home, but I know that's not true." "I'm fine, my love, but I need you to remember tomorrow, when your parents realize what's going to happen, that everything I did was to protect you, too. They're going to try to blame me for everything, But you know the truth. Olivia began to cry on the other end of the line. Grandma, what are you going to do? I'm scared. Her fear was justified because what I was about to unleash would change their lives forever. Don't be scared, Olivia. Just remember that I love you more than anything in this world, and that everything I'm going to do is to teach your parents that actions have consequences. Save this phone number on your cell phone, but don't tell anyone. Someday, when you're older, you'll understand why this was necessary. I dictated a number that I had bought that same week, a completely new line that no one else knew. My fourth call was to the city's most exclusive real estate agency. Good evening. Is Mr. Franklin available? This is Dolores Martinez. I want to activate the express sale of my property that we discussed last week. Yes, the price we agreed on is fine. I need the transaction to be completed before noon tomorrow. Mr. Franklin was a real estate agent who specialized in quick sales for clients who needed immediate liquidity. When I explained my situation, he himself suggested having everything prepared for an emergency sale. While I was making these calls, I could see the lights of my house on, the silhouettes of my children moving through the rooms, like vultures inspecting their new carry-on. Robert was in my office, probably going through my documents and planning how to spend my money. Chelsea was in my bedroom, surely deciding what to do with my personal belongings. Michael was walking around the living room as if he were the new owner of the castle he had just conquered. But what they didn't know was that every move they made was being monitored. The week before, when I confirmed my suspicions about their intentions, I had discreetly installed security cameras in strategic points of the house, small devices connected to my phone that recorded everything that happened in my absence, their celebrations, their plans, their cruel comments about my destiny. Everything was being documented in real time. My fifth and final call of that night was the most satisfying. Safe taxi. I need a ride to the airport. Yes, tonight. No, I'm not in a hurry. I have an early flight tomorrow. The driver arrived in 15 minutes, an older man who helped me with my suitcase and didn't ask unnecessary questions. As we drove away from my old house, I could see that the lights were still on, that the party was still going on. The airport at midnight had a solemnity that perfectly suited my mood. There were no crowds, no noise, just the echo of my steps on the polished marble as I headed to the VIP lounge I had reserved to spend the night. My flight was leaving at 6 a.m., but I needed to be there early to make sure everything went according to my plan. As I walked through the empty hallways, my phone began to vibrate with messages I knew would arrive very soon. The first message arrived at 2 a.m. It was from Robert. Dolores, there's a problem with one of your cards. Could you call us when you get this message? His tone was casual, as if it were a minor technical issue. 30 minutes later, the second message arrived, this time from Chelsea. Mom, some of your cards aren't working. We need you to come to the bank tomorrow to sort out this misunderstanding. The word misunderstanding made me smile. There was no misunderstanding. Everything was working exactly as I had planned. At 3 a.m., the messages became more urgent. Michael wrote, Mom, we need to talk urgently. There are serious problems with your bank accounts. Where are you? 40 minutes later, Sophia sent a message. Mother-in-law, we are very worried. The cards are blocked, and we don't know why. Please contact us immediately. The concern in their messages was palpable, but it wasn't concern for my well-being, but panic for their finances. At 4 a.m., when they were completely desperate, the calls started. My phone rang every 5 minutes, but I didn't answer. Every missed call was a small victory. Every voicemail I didn't listen to was another drop of justice falling on their heads. Finally, at 5 a.m., the message I had been waiting for arrived. It was from Franklin, the real estate agent. Mrs. Martinez, the sale is complete. The papers are signed, and the money has been transferred to the account you specified. The new family will take possession at 10 a.m. Perfect. In 5 hours, my children would discover that the house they had spent the night celebrating in no longer belonged to them, and that it had never belonged to them. They would also discover that their new owners had strict orders to change the locks immediately and to call the police if anyone tried to enter without authorization. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but it can also be served with a military efficiency that shatters lives in a matter of hours. My flight took off punctually at 6 a.m. As the plane climbed over the city where I had spent 70 years of my life, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. Below them, my children were probably waking up in a house that was no longer theirs, preparing for a day that would change their lives forever. But I felt no remorse. I had learned that misplaced compassion only invites more abuse. My flight's destination was a coastal city 1,000 miles away, where I had bought a small apartment facing the sea, using a financial identity I had been building discreetly for months. It wasn't illegal. It was just smart. I had gradually transferred my savings. I had established a new tax residency in another state. I had created a new life that my children couldn't easily trace. During the flight, my phone continued to receive increasingly desperate messages. At 7 a.m., Chelsea wrote, "Mom, this can't be happening. There has to be a mistake. The cards say the account is closed. What did you do?" At 8 a.m., Robert sent a message. "Dolores, we need answers now. We have expenses to pay, commitments to fulfill. You can't just leave us like this." The irony of his words was delicious. They, who had left me homeless and without dignity, were now complaining that I had left them without money. The most revealing message came at 9 a.m., when I was already landing in my new city. It was from Michael, and for the first time in years, he sounded like the scared boy he once was. "Mom, please, you have to help us. Sophia is crying. The kids are going to come home from school, and we don't know how to explain to them that we no longer have a house. We promise we will never treat you badly again. We just need you to fix this, and everything can go back to how it was before." How it was before? They wanted everything to go back to how it was before, when they could abuse my generosity without consequences, when they could treat me like a walking ATM who also cleaned up their emotional messes. But I was no longer the same woman who had entered that house to celebrate her birthday 24 hours earlier. That woman had died the moment Chelsea screamed that I was a burden in their lives. At 10 a.m., exactly when the new family was taking possession of my old house, I received a call from Olivia. Her voice was broken with sobs, but there was something else in her tone, a mature understanding I didn't expect to find in a 16-year-old. "Grandma, Mom and Dad are desperate. Some people came with keys and said the house is theirs now. Dad tried to stop them, but they showed legal papers. And you, my love, are you okay?" I asked, though I knew the answer would be complicated. Olivia sobbed before replying. "I'm scared, Grandma, but I'm also, I don't know how to say it, relieved. Last night, after you left, I heard them planning how they were going to spend your money. Mom wanted a new car. Dad was talking about a trip to Europe, and Uncle Michael mentioned an investment in some business. None of them mentioned visiting you at the nursing home, not even once." Olivia's words confirmed what I already knew in my heart. My children hadn't kicked me out of the house to protect or care for me, but so they could spend my money without the hassle of pretending to love me. That last revelation sealed my determination like cement hardening in the sun. Olivia, my love, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You're going to go through some very difficult days, but I want you to remember that none of this is your fault. Your parents made terrible decisions, and now they have to face the consequences. Grandma, can I go with you? I don't want to stay here watching them blame everyone but themselves. My granddaughter's question broke my heart, but I knew it couldn't be, at least not yet. My love, you're a minor. Legally, you have to stay with your parents. But when you turn 18, if you still want to find me, use the number I gave you last night. There will always be a place for you in my new life. After hanging up with Olivia, I turned off my phone and put it in the bottom of my suitcase. It was time to completely disconnect from the drama I had left behind and start building the life I deserved. My new apartment was small, but bright, with windows that looked out over the ocean and a balcony where I could sit and drink coffee while watching the sunrise. For the first time in years, no one was screaming at me, asking me for money, or making me feel guilty for existing. 3 weeks later, I turned on my phone for the first time since my arrival. I had 200 voicemails and 500 text messages. The first days had been desperate pleas, then legal threats, then attempts at emotional manipulation, and finally, when they realized I wasn't going to respond, insults and curses that revealed their true nature. Chelsea called me a manipulative snake. Robert accused me of ruining an innocent family's life, and Michael threatened me with legal consequences for family abandonment. But among all those messages of hatred, there was something that made me smile. An audio recording they had sent without realizing it, where you could hear Chelsea screaming at Robert that it was all his fault for being so obvious with his intentions. "I told you to be more subtle, you idiot. Now the old woman left us with nothing, and we don't even know where she is." Robert responded with equal venom. "At least I wasn't the one who directly threatened her. You were the one who screamed that she was a burden." Their internal fights were music to my ears. Not only had they lost my money and my house, but they were also destroying their own marriages with mutual recriminations. Michael had lost his job when his debts came to light. Sophia had to go back to living with her parents. Chelsea and Robert were sleeping at different friends' houses every night, and they all blamed each other for the disaster they had created themselves. 6 months after my escape, I received a certified letter from Javier, my lawyer. My children had tried to sue me for family abandonment and financial manipulation, but the case had been immediately dismissed when Javier presented the recordings I had made the night of my birthday. The judge not only dismissed their lawsuit, but warned them that any future attempt at legal harassment could result in criminal charges against them. A year later, on my 71st birthday, I was sitting on my balcony watching the sunset when my doorbell rang. For a moment, my heart sped up, thinking my children had found me. But when I opened the door, I was met with Olivia's radiant smile. She was 17 now. She looked more mature, stronger, and she was carrying a small suitcase. "Grandma, I turned 17 and convinced a judge to let me emancipate myself. I'm officially an adult in the eyes of the law, and I want to live with you if you'll still have me." Her words were like a gift from heaven. I hugged her so tightly that we both started to cry, but they were tears of joy, of reunion, of justice finally served. That night, as Olivia told me everything that had happened during our year apart, I learned that my children had hit rock bottom completely. Chelsea was working as a waitress in a fast food restaurant. Robert had had to declare bankruptcy, and Michael was living in a rented room after Sophia left him and took the children to another city. They had lost everything: money, house, dignity, family, and most importantly, they had lost the only person who had ever truly loved them unconditionally. "Do they ever ask about me?" I said to Olivia as I made chamomile tea in my small kitchen. My granddaughter sadly shook her head. "No, Grandma. They keep blaming you for everything that happened to them. They never accepted responsibility for what they did to you. They keep saying you're a vengeful woman who ruined their lives on a whim." That night, after Olivia went to her room to study, I stayed on the balcony with my herbal tea, watching the lights of the fishing boats on the horizon. For the first time in years, I really thought about my children, not with pain or anger, but with a kind of distant compassion, like the kind you feel for strangers who have made terrible mistakes. They had lost more than money or property. They had lost the opportunity to know the woman I had become after freeing myself from them. The truth is, I am happier now than I was in the last 20 years of my previous life. Every morning, I wake up without fear, without anxiety, without the expectation of being hurt by the people who should protect me. My money, although considerably less after all the expenses of my new life, is truly mine. I spend what I want, save what I can, and give when my heart dictates it, not when someone is emotionally blackmailing me. I have learned that true love doesn't demand constant sacrifices. True love is what Olivia and I share: mutual respect, genuine support, joy in each other's company. True love doesn't threaten, doesn't manipulate, doesn't condition affection on financial gain. My children never really loved me. They loved what I could give them. Today, as I write these lines in my journal, I can hear Olivia singing in the shower. It's a song I taught her when she was little, a melody my own mother used to sing to me. Life goes on. Traditions are passed down, but now they do so through genuine connections, not toxic obligations. If I could send a message to all the women who are living what I lived, I would tell them this: it's never too late to start over. You're never too old to demand respect. You're never too alone to stand up for yourself. And never, ever let someone convince you that you don't deserve dignity because your best years have passed. My best years had not passed. My best years began at 70 when I finally learned to put myself first. The sun is setting now, painting the sky with colors I never noticed when I lived in the city. Tomorrow, I will plant more flowers. I will cook something delicious for Olivia, and maybe write some letters to the women at the shelter who are beginning their own journeys toward freedom. My children chose a path that led them to misery. I chose a path that led me to peace. In the silence of my new life, I found my voice. In the solitude of my escape, I found my true family. In the loss of everything I thought was important, I found the only thing that really mattered: my own dignity. And I will never, ever let anyone take it away from me again. The names and places in this story have been changed to protect the identities of those involved. We do not share this to judge, but in the hope that someone will pause and reflect on how many mothers are silently suffering within their own homes. I truly wonder, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose silence to preserve peace? Or would you dare to confront everything in order to reclaim your voice? I long to hear your thoughts, because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. I firmly believe that God always blesses, and that courage leads us toward brighter days. As we close, I leave you with two of the channel's most beloved stories. I am certain they will surprise and inspire you. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.